When I picked up the phone to ask my son Ethan about his wedding date, I expected to hear joy in his voice, laughter, excitement, maybe even the sound of celebration in the background. Instead, it was his wife, Melissa, who answered. She looked me right in the eyes and said, with a smile so polished it almost cut, "Oh, we already got married yesterday. It was for special people only." Her words hit harder than any slap could. Special people. And apparently, I wasn't one of them. I stood frozen in my own living room, clutching the phone like it was made of stone. Ethan sat beside her, unable to meet my gaze, while Melissa crossed her legs gracefully on the sofa I had bought for them, the same sofa they hadn't even paid off yet. In my closet hung the pale blue dress I'd chosen for her big day, along with the new shoes I'd saved for months to buy. I had even set aside $1,000 as a wedding gift, thinking I'd finally be part of my son's happiest moment. But that dream, like every other plan I had for that day, vanished in 4 cruel words. For special people only. For 3 years I had paid their rent, bought their furniture, filled their refrigerator when they had nothing to eat. I was the one who made sure their lights stayed on and their car kept running, and yet I wasn't special enough to be invited to my only child's wedding. Later, I saw the pictures online. Ethan and Melissa were smiling, surrounded by her family. Her parents, her siblings, her cousins, glasses of champagne in every hand. Melissa wore the white dress I had partly paid for. Not even a message, not even a text. 7 days later, she called again, this time her voice trembling. "Mom, the rent's overdue. The landlord says he'll evict us if we don't pay this week. You forgot to transfer the money." Her tone was soft now, fragile, pleading. And I remember the silence that followed. The kind of silence where your heart speaks louder than your mouth ever could. Finally, I answered, my voice steady and strange. "Melissa, didn't I tell you? I only help special people." The silence that followed was delicious. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one trembling. But I had no idea. This was only the beginning. Because when a mother's heart breaks, something inside her is reborn. That night, I sat on my bed, staring at the wall as if answers might appear there. For years, I had believed that love was something you earned, something that required sacrifice, patience, and endless giving. But now, sitting in silence with my heart still echoing Melissa's cruel words, I finally saw the truth. I wasn't a mother anymore. I was an ATM with feelings. The next morning, I brewed coffee, my same old routine, but something was different. For the first time in years, I didn't check my phone for messages from Ethan. I didn't plan the day around their needs. I simply sat there, watching the sunlight slide across my kitchen table, and I realized how foreign peace felt. That table had been the witness to every foolish sacrifice: rent transfers, grocery lists for 2 adults, loan payments I never got back. Every receipt told a story of misplaced love. So I grabbed my checkbook and started adding up the total. 3 years of rent at $600 a month, $21,600. Groceries and utilities, around $7,000. Furniture, birthdays, emergencies, and endless short-term loans, another $5,000. $33,600. That was the price I had paid to be treated like a stranger. When I finished the math, I didn't cry. I didn't even feel anger anymore. I just felt done. Later that afternoon, I walked to the bank, a place I used to visit almost weekly to make transfers for Ethan and Melissa. The branch manager, Mr. Coleman, smiled when he saw me. "Good afternoon, Mrs. Miller. The usual transfer?" I smiled back, but it wasn't the same polite smile he was used to. "No, Mr. Coleman. Not today. I'd like to cancel all automatic payments and remove any shared access to my accounts." He blinked, surprised. "Are you sure? You've been sending those transfers for years." "I'm sure," I said quietly. "That chapter is over." As he processed the paperwork, my phone buzzed again and again. Ethan, Melissa, then Ethan again. For the first time, I let it ring. When I walked out of that bank, something inside me felt lighter, as if a weight I'd carried for decades had finally slipped off my shoulders. For the first time in years, my money and my peace belonged to me. But freedom, I was about to learn, always comes with a price. Because when people lose control of your life, they don't let go easily. 3 days later, I heard the knock, sharp, impatient, familiar. When I opened the door, Ethan stood there, shoulders tight, Melissa hovering behind him with sunglasses and that same perfect smile that once fooled me. "Mom, we need to talk," Ethan said. His voice was heavy, rehearsed. I stepped aside. "Come in." They sat across from me at the same kitchen table where I used to spread grocery lists and bills. Melissa's perfume filled the room, expensive, overpowering, like she was trying to mask the stench of guilt. She spoke first. "Evelyn, we've noticed you haven't sent this month's rent. We're behind and Ethan's job isn't stable right now." I folded my hands calmly. Yes, I noticed. I decided not to continue those payments. Ethan frowned. "What do you mean, decided?" "We agreed you'd help us until we were settled." I met his eyes, my son's eyes, and for a moment I saw the little boy who used to bring me flowers from the garden. But then I remembered the wedding, the silence, the look he gave me as he turned away. "No, Ethan," I said softly. "You and Melissa decided that. I just followed. That's over now." Melissa leaned forward, her tone sharpening. "Evelyn, you can't just cut us off. We relied on that money. We have bills, responsibilities." "And I have boundaries," I interrupted gently, "something I've been missing for too long." Her jaw tightened. "Boundaries? After everything we've done for you?" I couldn't help but laugh. "You mean after everything I've done for you?" Ethan stood up suddenly, voice rising. "This isn't fair, Mom. You're being unreasonable. We're family." "Yes," I said, rising too. "Family. The same family that got married behind my back and called it a day for special people." Silence. Melissa looked away, but Ethan's eyes filled with guilt, just for a second. Finally, Melissa spoke again, her tone lower, colder. "If you won't help us, fine. But don't expect us to come around anymore. You'll be alone." I smiled, a small, quiet smile. "Then I guess I'd better get used to peace." They left without another word, slamming the door behind them. For a moment I stood there, my heart trembling, not from sadness but from strength. Because I knew they weren't done, and neither was I. The house was silent after they left, the kind of silence that carries both peace and pain. I sat by the window, watching the rain streak down the glass, wondering when my love for my son had turned into an obligation he took for granted. I thought of Robert, my late husband, how careful he was, how he always told me to keep something for myself. "Never give everything away, Eve," he used to say with a smile. "Even the strongest heart needs a place to rest." At the time I thought he meant my emotions, but now I realized he might have meant something more. The next morning I went up to the attic to look through Robert's old desk, the one that still smelled faintly of cedar and his aftershave. Inside the top drawer, beneath some dusty photo albums, I found an envelope sealed with his neat handwriting. "For Evelyn. To be opened when you feel alone." My hands shook as I opened it. Inside were property papers, investment certificates, and a letter. "My dearest Eve, I know you've always cared for everyone, even when they didn't deserve it. So I set something aside for you, away from curious eyes and greedy hands. It's yours and only yours. Please never let anyone make you feel like you need their permission to live your own life. Love always. Robert." Tears welled up, but this time they weren't from pain, they were from gratitude. He had known. Somehow he had seen this coming. The documents listed ownership of a small lakeside cottage and a modest savings account in my name. It wasn't millions, but it was security, independence. That afternoon I called Mr. Howard, Robert's old lawyer. He confirmed everything. "Mrs. Miller, your husband was a wise man. He made sure you'd be protected." For the first time in years, I felt something I hadn't in a long time: safety. Later that evening, as I sat at the kitchen table, I wrote 2 letters. One for the bank authorizing full protection on all my accounts, and one for Ethan. "My dear son, I love you deeply, but love without respect is just debt. I've paid enough of those." I placed the letter in an envelope and sealed it with a kiss. Because the next time they came to my door, I wasn't going to argue. I was going to show them who I really was. 2 weeks passed before Ethan and Melissa returned. I heard their car pull into the driveway, loud, hurried, desperate. This time, I didn't rush to open the door. I waited until their knock softened into hesitation. When I finally opened it, Ethan's face was pale, and Melissa's confidence had melted away. "Mom," he began, voice trembling. "We need help. Our lease was terminated. The landlord won't let us back in, and the bank froze our account. We have nowhere to go." I looked at them, really looked at them, for the first time not as the child I raised or the woman who took advantage of me, but as two broken people who had finally run out of excuses. "Come in," I said quietly. They sat at the table, the same table where I used to feed them, where they once planned my exclusion from their wedding. Ethan's voice cracked. "Mom, I'm sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. I thought I could handle life without you, but I was wrong." Melissa's eyes filled with tears. "Evelyn, I said terrible things. I was selfish. I didn't understand what love looked like until I lost it." I took a deep breath, my fingers gently tracing the rim of my teacup. "Do you know what hurt me most? It wasn't missing the wedding or the lies. It was realizing I raised people who saw my kindness as weakness." They sat in silence. Then I reached for an envelope from the counter, the one I had sealed days earlier. "I wrote something for you both," I said. "A letter, not of anger, but of truth." Ethan unfolded it slowly. Inside was my message. Love is not a transaction. It's not rent or groceries or gifts. It's respect, honesty, and presence. When you take without giving, you don't just lose money, you lose hearts. He read it quietly, then looked up with wet eyes. "Mom, I don't deserve your forgiveness." I smiled faintly. "Maybe not. But forgiveness isn't for you. It's for me." Melissa sobbed softly, her pride finally cracking. And I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. I stood, walked to the window, and opened the curtains. The morning light spilled across the room like a blessing. "Robert always said love is patient," I whispered. "But he forgot to mention, it's also strong." Ethan nodded, tears falling freely. "Mom, can we start over?" I turned to him and smiled. "We already have." Because sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's finally being free enough to choose peace over pain. Sometimes love doesn't end with goodbye. It ends with understanding. Evelyn didn't need revenge to feel whole again. She needed peace, the kind that comes when you finally stop chasing people who don't value your heart. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means freeing yourself from the weight of someone else's choices. Because real strength isn't loud, it's quiet. It's found in the woman who stands tall after being broken, who smiles again after being silenced, and who still chooses love, but this time for herself.